And checking your time is just 5 minutes gone past 8 o'clock. And the accreditation process should have started at exactly 8 o'clock. We'd like to hear from you wherever you are at the moment. Have you cited any of the INEC officials? What exactly is the news from your side of town? Basically, we would love to know what is happening where you are at the moment. Don't forget, we'll be going to Daura pretty much later in the day to also ascertain what it is like concerning this particular process. But this, as Chukwuma has said, is one great moment for the life of one Nigerian, and that is you. As a voter, you have just this moment to correct or to reaffirm and whatever you believe has been happening in the country, and the process is ongoing at the moment. We have observers from all over the world, the EU, the AU, and of course ECOWAS, regional bodies, as well as individuals that have been given accreditation to observe and monitor this particular process. And as Mr. Westcott did say, well, they are all optimistic that this process will see us into a very peaceful, credible, and acceptable election by all. Well, I'd like to quickly introduce Captain Umar Aliyu. He's a retired Army captain. He was here yesterday with us, and he's one of our resource persons that will be talking in terms of security. Captain Aliyu, good morning, and thanks for joining us very quickly. Good morning. And I did say also that Marco will be helping us to go through the process, because now loads of Nigerians will be about now leaving their homes, going to the election or the polling units. You just have to arm yourself, refresh your memory, that is, that's so that you know what to do when you get there as it is. But for now, we go to Malkbe. Malkbe, you help us go through this process again. For now, she's my teacher.
Sulaiman, oh, thank you very much. I do share your concern, though, you know, with logistics. And what we've seen so far, we've seen that in some areas, it would seem that INEC officials have arrived there already, but it's definitely not very good news coming from Otuoke, where Chukwuma is covering it for us. But today, guess what? You're king, as he rightly pointed out. And if you've not left the house yet, because we're expecting that people who will eventually go to vote as king, if you have your PVC, we're going to show you just what to expect when you get to the polling unit. If it will come up quickly on the screen, we have a little animation for you there. This is what you're going to be seeing. The people in green there are the voters who are going to be queuing when you get to the polling unit. You're supposed to be on a queue, be orderly. The assistant presiding officer 3 will ensure that you are properly and orderly on a queue. You're also going to be seeing the security personnel who is in black there. The presiding officer, one of the assistant presiding officers, is in blue for you. They're not going to be wearing those colors. We've just put them that way so that you can differentiate, or you should know what to expect when you eventually get to the polling units. Now, when you get there, you're orderly. You move from there to the first table, where you will see another presiding officer. That is where your PVC will be collected from you, and accreditation will be done. They will check it out to ensure that you're truly who you say you are with your PVC, and then you're supposed to authenticate with your thumb. Now, if that works, hopefully it will work, because it's one very touchy area in this elections. But if you move down, you see the second table, where when you have been cleared at the first table, you are now verified at the second table. Your name is ticked off the register, and then your thumb, one of your fingers is inked. Subsequently, you move from there. This will move now, and then you can leave the polling unit. There you will see the presiding officer, you will see party agents, and then you also see the observers, all of whom you understand are already at Otuoke. But for some reason, it would seem that the people who should be ensuring that everybody has some work to do are not here. That's the INEC officials. But the observers are there, the party agents are there, and then you can leave. Now, this process is expected to start from 8 o'clock, so it ought to have started now, by now, 8 till 1 p.m., according to what INEC says will happen. Now, from 1:30, the actual voting process will begin. So you know that the process is divided into two. That's the accreditation system you just saw. The voting system is going to happen in almost similar fashion. So you see that people will queue again. The voter, the king today, is wearing green, or is coded in green. The presiding officer is there again to ensure that everybody is orderly. The security personnel will also be there. Do note that at the end of accreditation, that's part 1, the security officer would have stood at the end of the queue to ensure that, to tell everyone that that is the end of accreditation for that day. But then, as a voter, you move on to where the ballot paper is issued to you by the assistant presiding officer, and then your finger is inked again for the second time. This process is the most important process. You cannot do this process without doing the first one. And you cannot do the second one if you haven't done the first one. Well, you move from there to where you now see the ballot, beg your pardon, the polling booth. That polling booth is very sacred. Now, in some places, you would actually have an actual polling booth. I think INEC is going to ensure that in many places that is the case. But in case where you do not have a polling booth, please ensure that your ballot is protected. In other words, this is the most sacred part of the electoral process. Whoever it is you decide to vote for should be your business. Nobody should be standing behind you or looking around you to see who it is you're voting for. It's supposed to be a very confidential part of this particular process, unless, of course, you're disabled, in which case you have to get somebody whom you trust to be the one to guide you through the process. If you do feel any intimidation, you have a right to raise an alarm to say, there is somebody here who I don't feel comfortable about, and INEC officials should do something about it. So you move on to the polling booth where it is your thumbprint. Be careful when you hold that paper. Ensure that it doesn't touch another area so that your ballot is not declared invalid. And then you go on to put it inside the ballot boxes. I think we already past the ballot box somewhere there. But the people who you see there will still be there. The presiding officer is there watching to ensure that everything is going according to plan. Party agents are also ensuring that, you know, nothing is going out of hand. And also observers are also just observing the process to see what exactly is happening. But today, do note that you're a king. You have a right to a protected ballot. The ballot, I think, because we're doing the presidential and the National Assembly elections, will be color-coded. INEC officials, if you get there early, will explain to you just where to drop your ballot papers, since we're having these 3 different elections today. Do follow the processes. Be orderly. When you're done with the voting process, which is supposed to start at 1, you can either decide to go home. If you decide to wait for the results to be counted, please be orderly, because there are many offenses that you could be charged for today. Loitering is one of them, and we don't want anybody getting caught with the law. But that will be it. I think that we'll be going back to studio now. Sulaiman, it's back to you. I believe that Captain Umar will be telling us some of the security tips, how to vote with our heads and not our hearts today, how to be sensible when we get to the polls. Thank you, Sulaiman.
Well, many thanks, Mark, but we'll have to go back to that again and again, all through this particular process till you're done with the voting procedure. Remember, all the election tips we'll be sharing with you pretty much later. Incidents of aggressive behavior towards INEC or security officials, things to avoid that you can report as well, suspicious and inciting gatherings, and of course, we'll share them with you right here on the program.